All right, hey everybody. This is Preaching Donkey. My name is Lane Sebring. We're going to talk tonight about Jerry Falwell Jr. and what's happening with him. If you don't know what has gone on, this is breaking news as of tonight. The Liberty University has just announced a decision to ask Jerry Falwell Jr. to step down temporarily. They say an indefinite leave of absence. And so we're going to talk about that tonight as people are jumping on. I just want to remind you, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, definitely go ahead and do that. We talk about preaching. We talk about how to improve your preaching, how to make a bigger impact with your preaching. And so definitely want you to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And also give this video a like and give it a share. And we're going to get into Jerry Falwell here in just a second. But before we do, I want to mention something that I always mention, and that is this channel is all about helping preachers communicate better. And even though tonight we're talking about what's going on at Liberty University with Jerry Falwell, we definitely are all about preaching here at this channel. So definitely subscribe and go to preachingdonkey.com/21 days, 21 days, to get your 21-day guide to creating killer sermons. That's my gift to you. That's for everybody who wants to jump on that. It's really, really great. So let's go ahead and jump into Jerry Falwell and what's happening with him. If you don't know what's going on, Jerry Falwell it's just been announced, and here's the announcement. Liberty announcement regarding LU University. This is from Lynchburg, Virginia. The Executive Committee of Liberty University's Board of Trustees, acting on behalf of the full board, met today and requested that Jerry Falwell Jr. take an indefinite leave of absence from his roles as president and chancellor of Liberty University, to which he has agreed, effective immediately. So what this means is that he is, at the moment, out as president of Liberty University. Now, if you don't know who Jerry Falwell Jr. is, his dad, Jerry Falwell Sr., is actually the one who was the first, the founder of Liberty University there in Lynchburg, grew it pretty large, and then Jerry Falwell Jr. took it over and grew it even more. And he's been the president there, I think, since 2007. So this is a big, big deal. And this comes on the heels of an Instagram photo that he posted, which we'll talk about here in just a second. I want to read another article. This is from CNN. Headline is, Jerry Falwell Jr. will take leave of absence from Liberty University. Here's what it says. Jerry Falwell Jr., the president and chancellor of Liberty University, has agreed to take an indefinite leave of absence, according to a statement on Friday from the Evangelical Christian University. The leave of absence is effective immediately, the statement said. The school's executive committee of the Board of Trustees made the request of Falwell. The board did not provide a reason for Falwell's leave in its statement. CNN has reached out to Falwell for comment. The university, when reached for comment, referred to the statement. Falwell, no stranger to controversy, has come under fire in recent days after posting a picture on Instagram that depicted him with his pants unzipped and his midsection visible to the camera. In the photo, Falwell is seen holding a cup of dark liquid with one arm around a woman whose shorts are also unzipped. In a radio interview, Falwell explained that the woman was his wife's assistant. They were at a costume party, and it was just in good fun, he added. This is a quote from Jerry Falwell. It was weird because she's pregnant, so she couldn't get her shorts up, and I was I'm reading this verbatim. I was trying to I have a pair of jeans I haven't worn in a long time, so I couldn't get mine zipped either, Falwell says, so I just put my belly out like hers. Falwell said he should have never put it up and embarrassed her. He added, I've apologized to everybody, and I promised my kids I'm going to try to be a good boy from here on out. Okay, Rep. Mark Walker, a Republican from North Carolina and a member of Liberty University Advisory Board, called Thursday on Falwell to resign, calling his ongoing behavior appalling. I just think there's a code that leaders have to live by, especially when you're leading the largest Christian evangelical university in the country, Walker told CNN's Brianna Kaler on Friday. So essentially, what has happened, which, by the way, I'm not in my normal studio at home. I'm actually traveling right now. And so I got a different setup tonight. But I wanted to go live and talk about this because I think there's some beneficial lessons for pastors to learn here. And I think when it comes to Jerry Falwell Jr.'s behavior, it's been it's been a kind of a mess for a long time. He has made statements before when people have approached him about his behavior. He says things like, hey, listen, I never claimed to be a minister. I never claimed to be a pastor. David Nasser, he's kind of the campus pastor. He takes care of all that. I just run the university, and my job is to grow the university. And that answer, it has kind of been in his mind and what he has expressed kind of good enough. He has just seen that as like this position, being the president of the largest Christian university in the country, according to this article, but I've also heard it referred to as the largest Christian university in the world if you take into account how many online students there are. It's just not a good enough approach for Jerry Falwell to just say, hey, listen, I know that I do crazy things and I set a bad example, and I kind of have like I'm a little bit reckless with what I do in public. To do that is one thing, and that's certainly within his rights to do. It's his prerogative if he wants to. But if he wants to also be the president of the largest Christian university in the world, then there's going to be problems, right? There's going to be an issue. Not to mention the fact that when you post a photo to Instagram with your pants unzipped, with your arm around a woman whose pants are always also unzipped, you're just inviting problems that you don't need to invite into your life. I mean, you're inviting trouble and problems that any one of us could avoid just by not being a dummy and posting stuff like that. And so I want to know what you think in the comments. I want to know what you think about this situation. Should Jerry Falwell Jr. have resigned? A lot of people were calling for his resignation. A lot of people were saying, look, he should have just resigned. That should have been what happened. Was it the right thing to do for him to try to stay on and for the board to come and say, hey, you know what, you're out of here? Was that the right thing to do? Or should he just still be the president? And is all this blown out of proportion? I would love to hear what you think. I think that my honest opinion, when this happened, I thought he needs to step down. He needs to step down. That was my thought. And the reason why I thought that was because it's not this one incident, and it's not that I felt like he should be canceled or he should be pushed out or there should be petitions. My feeling as a leader, looking at another leader who has a prominent position, way more prominent than anyone I've ever had, I thought it is in his best interest to step down. And it's in the best interest of the school for him to no longer be the face of the school. And I know he's done what his kind of claim to fame was growing the school. And there's been a lot of kind of rumors about real estate dealings and how that has all been dealt with. You might know more about that than I do. But all I'm just saying, from the outside looking in, as a third party, I'm looking at a school that, yes, has grown in numbers, but you've got this guy at the top that is not doing the school any favors and not doing its alumni any favors, which, by the way, full disclosure, I got my graduate degree from Liberty. I didn't go there for my undergrad, but I got my graduate degree from Liberty. So anytime Jerry Falwell Jr. would be in the news for doing something buffoonish, I would just think, man, why? Like, why do you got to be always doing this stuff from the school that I went to? Okay, so that's just me personally. I felt like, you know what? It doesn't seem like he is taking this role seriously. And I know if you're watching, whether live or on the recording later, I know that every one of us know that as a pastor, there are just certain things that you have to be careful of. You have to be careful about appearances and what things look like. And when you post things, you just have to take into account how it's going to be perceived. And that's good advice for anybody, whether you're a pastor or not. Now, I realize Jerry Falwell Jr. is not a pastor. He's been very emphatic about that he's not a pastor, he's not a minister. However, leading the largest Christian university in the country, or any Christian university for that matter, is very similar, at least in the public eye, to being a pastor. I don't think most people looking at this see much of a distinction. I think most people look at this and they say, he's in leadership, he's in Christian leadership. Why is he posting a picture of his pants down or his pants unzipped with a girl that he's not married to on a yacht on Instagram for the world to see? I mean, that's ridiculous. So my thought has always been the guy needs to step down. That's probably the wisest thing to do. Now, let's talk about lessons. because that's what I always like to draw this out. And the lesson that I think, the primary lesson that I want to take from this for pastors comes from actually James chapter 3. James says, not many of you should presume to be teachers, because teachers will be judged more strictly. Now, I think what he's talking about is people who teach are going to be judged on what they teach, right? Whether it's accurate, whether they live up to it, whether it's true and biblical, whether it produces results, and that's all true. I think also those who are in leadership and those who are in a position where people are coming to them, or in this case, to their institution to learn, to grow, they're just going to be judged more strictly, whether you're a pastor or the president of a large Christian university or otherwise. And so I think for us as pastors, we just have to realize when we decided to do this for a living, with that came what has to be a keen awareness of what is of what our kind of public persona is. We have to have a keen awareness of what kind of image we're portraying, what kind of public-facing face that we have with people around us. And definitely these days with social media, it's instant, right? I mean, he put the photo up, probably immediately felt like an idiot, took it down, but it was too late, all right? People screenshotted it, they picked it up, and by that point, it was all over the place. And that could happen to any of us. This is not an isolated incident with Jerry Falwell Jr. He's been doing this kind of stuff, not always pictures, a lot of times it's statements, but he's been doing these kind of things for quite a while, and it's just now gotten to the point where the board at Liberty is finally saying, this is enough. Enough is enough. So again, my thought is it's a good thing he stepped down, and I think that for those of us as pastors, we have to realize the position we're in. I think also, if we ever get to the point where we no longer respect the position that we're in, we have to go. We have to step down. I think Jerry Falwell Jr. got to a point where he's wealthy, right? He's on his yacht. The school has done very well. I know he has personally, and the Falwell family has personally benefited financially from the fact that the school has grown, real estate holdings have grown. And I think he's got, this is just my judgment, but I think from the outside looking in, it just seemed like he no longer respected the position and the influence he held over that school, those students, the community, and really the onlooking world. And for those of us who are pastors, I think when we get to the point where we no longer respect the position that we're in and what it means, we have to let it go. So if you're a pastor and you've gotten cavalier and you've gotten calloused to the position and you've just thought, you know what, you kind of take it for granted. And really, if it's in the case of Jerry Falwell Jr., it's almost like he felt like this was owed to him because his last name is Falwell and his first name is Jerry. And so it was just his to have, right? And I think if you get to that point, and when you get to that point, and we all have to just know this in our heart, at that point we have to say, I am no longer respecting the weight and the gravity of this position, so I've got to let it go. So really, those are my two lessons. Just the fact that, man, when you are a pastor or a public figure, especially the larger you are and the bigger your platform, you have to be really discerning about what you put out in public. And then number two, man, when you get to the point where you no longer respect the gravity of the position, you got to give it up. And in this case, he didn't, and the board moved, and I think they did the right thing. I think he should have resigned voluntarily, but I think it's a good thing that they finally just got together and said, look, he's a problem. He's going to have to step down indefinitely. And maybe running a Christian university is not what he should be doing. Maybe he should be doing real estate investing or whatever he wants to do, but maybe a position that's so public and so ministry related is just not what he should be doing. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you in the comments, whether you're live. I can't see the comments right now the way I'm doing this on my phone, but I will read all of them later, and I will definitely get back to you. Definitely give this video a like. That would be awesome. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Again, go to preachingdonkey.com/21days, and I will see you in the next video.